Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next lesson in the upper intermediate course. And today we're going to talk business. We're going to talk shop. Now, if you talk shop, S-H-O-P, talking shop means talking business. So if someone says, "What were you doing?" and you answer, "We were talking shop," they'll know you were talking business. And if you look at the top right here, many a small thing has been made large by the right kind of advertising. And today we're going to look at words associated with marketing and advertising and business because it's how the world runs. It's how business runs. We advertise and market to people like me and you and me, so that we'll buy it. And in some form or fashion, you received an advertisement from me and thought it was a good deal. I hope you still think it's a good deal. Anyway, today we're going to look at good business. Clauses of contrast, this is the grammar part, not related to business as such, but the vocabulary is advertising and business, and then pronunciation, which the audio files will help you with. Changing stress on nouns and verbs. Now, vocabulary in speaking is going to focus on Red Bull. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Red Bull was started in, I thought it was Indonesia, but I don't find it here. Maybe it's Malaysian. It's one of those. And the big owner, I know there's a billionaire family in one of those countries that have done really well as a result of Red Bull. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at the words you're going to read the article, and then you're going to look at the words in yellow and try to match them over here. So you're going to do a bit of word discovery, word definitions. I've highlighted damaged reputation. Damaged means lowered reputation, hurt reputation. If your reputation goes down or is lowered, it's damaged. I think what I might want to do today, I haven't done it in a long time, is I'm going to read part of this to you, and I want you to repeat it after me. Some of you need to improve your pronunciation, and this is a great way to do it. I'm going to read a sentence, you pause, and then you read the sentence. I'm going to read the next sentence, pause, and you read the next sentence. Here we go. So let's start with the title. Advertising scandals that cost some brands millions. Now, if you don't feel you've said that correctly, you can rewind what I've said and then play it again, and then you try it again, or record your voice. This is a great way to compare. Now we're going to look at the subtitle. In advertising, there's a big difference between exaggerating the truth and making false claims. All right. A false claim is a lie. They didn't say that, but it's a lie. You can exaggerate, but you can't lie. Now, where is that line between exaggeration and lying? Well, the courts often have to decide, a judge or a jury. Now, let's continue, and I'll read the first sentence. Many companies have been caught using misleading claims like scientifically proven with, quote, guaranteed results in their advertisements. Your turn. Pause the recording. I'll continue, but pause the recording and repeat. For such companies, it can cost millions and lead to a damaged reputation. Stop. Several examples of false advertising scandals have affected big brands. Some are still ongoing. They haven't stopped. And not all companies have had to pay up with a fine, but each suffered a certain amount of negative publicity. We'll just finish it here. Red Bull, energy drinks company Red Bull was sued in 2014 for its slogan, "Red Bull gives you wings." The slogan, which the company has used in advertising campaigns for nearly 2 decades, went alongside marketing claims that the caffeinated drink could improve a consumer's concentration and reaction speed. The ability to react quickly. Benjamin Carruthers, was one of several consumers who brought the case against the Austrian drinks company. He said that he had been a regular consumer of Red Bull for 10 years, but that he had not developed wings or shown any signs of improved intellectual or physical abilities. The company settled the case by agreeing to pay out a maximum of $13 million, including $10 to every U.S. consumer who had bought the drink since 2002. $10. Did you get your $10? If you didn't, it might be too late, and I'm sorry about that, but you can check. All right, now you're going to answer these questions. I really encourage you to practice pronunciation and accent and rhythm flow and intonation by sort of echoing how I read these sentences. I think it goes a long way in helping you become more natural as an English speaker. Basically, providing some stories about have you bought something recently that wasn't as good as advertised? Well, recently I bought this microphone. You can hear me on the microphone. It's for me very expensive, maybe not for someone else, but I was nervous that it wasn't going to be as good as advertised. I'd read lots of testimonies and, assessments saying it was really good, it was the best they had, but for the price I was nervous. But guess what? I'm very satisfied. So this was, I think, as good as advertised. I think it's overpriced, but the reputation is that it's the best, so the price is higher. What about you? Have you ever bought something that wasn't as good as advertised, that you were disappointed with, that you think, wow, this was not worth it? We'll talk about that. And we've got 5 other questions that you can discuss with a speaking partner, and I really encourage you to do that. You've got some listening, and I'll let you get to the listening. I'm going to move over to the grammar because that's the part that I'm going to discuss in detail. Now, here we have an introductory assignment that you're going to actually get checked with listening 9.2, but all of these words, especially number 1 here, if we go up, in spite of, these are all important, and these are practice for the grammar exercise. So pause the recording, do 1 to 7, see how you do before you get to the grammar bank. And that's where I'm going to sort of come in and explain a little bit about clauses of contrast and purpose. So if we look here, we've got clauses of contrast, although and though. So I'm going to read these, and you can repeat after me if you want. Although the advert said it would last for years, my dishwasher broke down after 2 months. Although or though can be used interchangeably. They mean about the same. Below, they'll tell you though is more informal. Maybe. At the beginning of the sentence, yes. In the middle, maybe not. My dishwasher broke down after 2 months, though the advert said it would last for 10 years. Oh, for years. For years. Notice now it's in the middle. The positioning's in the middle, and even though is also in the middle. My dishwasher broke down again, even though I had it repaired the week before. So if you want to make a really strong contrast, even though is your selection. It's your choice. That's the strongest contrast of these here. So if you want something stronger, even though is your best bet. Now, if we go down to despite and in spite of, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes learners make. They say despite of, and this is not what we say. We say despite or in spite of, but never despite of, never. It's wrong. So, despite her age, my mother is still very active. Despite being 85, my mother is still very active. In spite of the fact that she's 85, my mother is still very active. So you have 3 ways to do this with a noun, with a verb plus ing, or with the fact that. So 3 ways, memorize them because you use this. I know it because I hear it a lot. Second language learners of English use despite or in spite of a lot. So memorize this and don't get it wrong. And if that means just repeating it over and over with different things, so instead of her age, in spite of her youth, she walked like an old lady. In spite of being 15, she was a chess champion. Despite the fact she was 15, she was a chess champion. So you can practice these over and over until you get the form down, because you don't want to make this mistake. It's a clear sign that you are not a native speaker and probably not a good foreign speaker, because despite and in spite of is one of these markers or tests that native speakers use, maybe subconsciously, to think, oh, they don't know the language very well. So don't make this mistake. Now, clauses of purpose, to, in order to, so as to, these all work the same. I'll read them. I went to the bank to ask for a loan. I went to the bank in order to ask for a loan. And then much less common, I went to the bank so as to ask for a loan. So as to ask for a loan, no one says really. It's to or in order to. But to be honest, to or in order to, you have to in order to. So you might as well just use to ask instead of in order to ask. But both are fine and both are used actually. But to is shorter. So if you don't have time, then use to. I went to the bank for a meeting. That's a prepositional phrase. They're saying it's a clause of purpose. Fine. I went to the bank so that I could talk to the manager. That's fine. I wrote down what he said so as not to forget it. And I wrote down what he said in order not to forget it. So as not to forget it, again, is not very common in English. You can use it. It's just not used much. In order not to is much more common. And if you notice, these are to express negative purposes. And the others here you can see have, this one follows a noun. This one follows a noun. So it's pretty clear. This first group follows a verb. I mean, a verb follows these. So these, in the first group, a verb follows. In the second group, a noun. And then in the third group, it's a negative purpose followed by a verb. All right, you're going to have to practice these. Again, so as not to, I'm trying to save you some time. I don't think it's that important. So I don't think you need to worry about that. I think all the others are pretty important. So you want to know them because people are going to say them. People aren't going to say so as not to, but they will say the others. And that's what you're going to have to work with the grammar. And then below, here is your listening. I want you to do, your speaking test. I want you to send me 2 or 3 of these sentences where you finish these and finish the sentence. I want to hear if you're using them right. If you want to do all 8, I'll listen. But if you want to do 3 or 4, that's ideal. And that'll tell me how well you're doing at these. And again, this is an opportunity to dialogue directly with me. I would take advantage of it because I will give you direct and personal feedback. Now, the vocabulary related to business is actually done for you. All of this, I thought about, should I add more terms or some interesting worksheets? To be honest, there's so much here. I feel I will bog you down. Bog you down, B-O-G, to bog someone down, is to put more work on them than they can manage. And then they just say, I can't do any of it. So I don't want to bog you down because look at all of the work you have to do here. There's one thing here that they don't discuss in the exercises, so I'll mention. You do business, you don't do a business. That's sort of a minor issue, to be honest, but just in case. Everything else is up to you. And I think it's going to be a really interesting exercise, especially for those who are doing business or plan to get into business. And then finally, the pronunciation. Again, I think pronunciation is really important, especially if you want to get into business. Export, export. Now, this is going to be interesting because the accent changes depending on whether it's a verb or a noun. We export our main export. So we export our main export. That's the same, I think. Let's check it. Export, export. I think it's the same, but some of them aren't. And they will change, and you'll have to see, especially I think here, record, record. So you have different pronunciations here, depending on whether it's a verb or a noun. So good luck with that. This is really important. So take the pronunciation very seriously because you're going to need to use both the noun and the verb once you get into business when speaking English. Good luck. Have a great, learn a lot. Don't worry about covering everything. If you can't get to everything, focus on the areas you need most and just enjoy the learning process. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.